What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. Things are looking a little weird for Mark Carney moving forward as we head into next week's leadership vote. With that being said, we all know what the result of that's going to be. We're not going to dwell on that. But one of the things that's funny is that I've got a bad feeling for Mark Carney as things move forward. We've talked about the fake polls. We've talked about everything that's happening with Mark Carney. I don't think he's got a snowball's chance in hell of standing up against Pierre Poilievre. That being said, we'll see what unfolds once that vote goes through, however, what that means for Parliament and what it means getting back to work with the Canadian government. We're going to get into that hopefully as soon as possible. But nonetheless, people are still mulling around Parliament Hill, and we've got some interesting information that came out yesterday via the leadership debates. Mark Carney, of course, spouting lies in regards to Canada's economy. Now, as we talk about the incoming tariffs and, the proposed tariffs, we'll say, that keep getting delayed, which is a good thing. But one of the things coming out of that, of course, that we've talked about on this channel is Donald Trump essentially offering better deals to Canadian companies, saying you're going to have better output down here, less taxes, more profits, easier operating costs. It's going to result in a number of Canadian businesses moving south of the border. One of those businesses seems to not only be a large one in Canada, one of the largest, but it's owned by Mark Carney. At least he's one of the top shareholders. He sits at the head of the board. Brookfield has made an announcement they're moving to the United States. Talk about hypocrisy here. Here we've got Melissa Lantsman tweeting out yesterday, Mark Carney told Canadians he's no longer on the board when the decision to move the company he chaired moved to the United States. So again, we all knew Brookfield was moving, but Mark Carney, of course, stood in the debate saying, hey, I had nothing to do with that. I wasn't part of the board when that happened. Melissa stating that wasn't true. Now here's a Liberal minister and member of Carney's own team admitting Carney put his profits ahead of Canada. Again, we've talked about follow the money. We've talked about take a bigger look at the bigger picture as to what's going on here. Mark Carney isn't interested in being the Prime Minister of Canada. He's interested in pumping up his investments and his portfolios, his net worth. This is what they're all in it for. They're all pigs at a trough. Take a listen here.
Do you think he needs to come clean on the Brookfield move, though?
What I would say is, irrespective of this particular instance, anyone who knows anything about business knows that boards actually have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. I wasn't in the room. I don't know what the conversations were. But I know Mr. Carney is a man of very high ethics. At the end of the day, his job as a chairman of a board is to act in the best interests of shareholders. I'm sure he did that. But in terms of the specifics, you've got to ask Mr. Carney.
Wait a minute. Isn't this the same team, the same Liberal Party that said Team Canada, stop buying American, we're all in this together? They were going to pull liquor off the shelves from the United States. Everybody remember that? Well, what is he talking about here? Hey, he's got an interest in, he's got to look out for shareholders. He's got to do the right thing here, guys. This is what always amazes me about the Liberals and the NDP is that anytime they're caught, essentially in their lies, they simply tout a bunch of word salad hoping that it gets them off the hook. And what's really funny is how much the media buys it. Michael Barrett also took to discussing it. Mark Carney personally signed a letter where he endorsed shipping Canadian jobs to New York City. Again, this press conference happening yesterday. Take a listen to what he had to say, because here's the proof in the pudding, where Mark Carney claims, I wasn't a part of the board when this happened.
Last night, Mark Carney lied to Canadians. He lied to Canadians saying that his company, Brookfield Asset Management, only moved their headquarters from Canada to Donald Trump's hometown of New York City after he had resigned from the board. Now, we all know that Brookfield made that announcement on October the 31st, proving that Mr. Carney was lying to Canadians. But this morning, we can share with you a letter signed by Mark Carney on December the 1st. Now, this is just days after Donald Trump had threatened Canada for the first time with unjustified tariffs. Now, this letter says that the decision by the board, of which Mark Carney at that time was chair, was unanimous to move the headquarters and Canadian jobs to Donald Trump's hometown of New York City. And the letter implores shareholders, urges them to support the move.
So what's important to note from that, what's important to take from that, is that Mark Carney, it was unanimous. He voted in favor of it, again, days after the tariff threats. However, what you have to realize is that when they do these things, they must have been in the works for this for a while. You don't just wake up one day and say, hey, let's move all our jobs to America. Let's all vote in favor. These things do take a little bit of time. Now, I'm not making that as an excuse, but more just to lay out the groundwork that they didn't hear about the tariff threats and then just all of a sudden say, oh, board meeting, everybody, we got to move to the United States. What you have to look at is the Canadian economy over the last few years while Justin Trudeau and his cronies, especially Crystia Freeland and Karina Gould, running the country into the ground. If you look at the value of our dollar, you're losing 30 cents on the dollar for every US dollar right now. It's cheaper to operate in the United States. This plan would have been on the board for quite some time, and not to mention other companies across Canada that are probably now looking, as more time gets on, as the threats continue to loom, that it's more profitable and better, less risk management for them to pack up and move to the United States. Kind of similar to what we saw in California, where people were relocating their head offices into Texas because it was a better state to work in, lower taxes, less woke people, many, many reasons for people to leave California. Well, this is now what's happening with Canadian jobs, is that people are looking at the value of the Canadian dollar versus the US. They're looking at our economy. They're looking at our possible future with Mark Carney coming in, realizing where we're headed and the obligatory doomsday that we're essentially headed towards without a paddle. But that being said, I'm curious what Mark Carney or Charles Montgomery Burns is going to have to say about it when he's asked later on, hey, wait, why did you say you weren't on the board when we have a letter signed from you while you were head of the board just days after Trump started making those threats? Interesting to see. We wait very patiently for his reaction. Let me know what you guys think down below. Many people have been disqualified from the Liberal leadership race for other reasons. Do you think Mark Carney should face disqualification for lying during the Liberal leadership race? I know it's a very petty thing to ask for, but hey, let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell for notifications. Join me live tonight and every Friday night here on the channel for Friday Night Fringe, our live streaming show where I sit down with the very beautiful Mrs. Fringe and we go over everything that's happened this week in politics, everything coming up in the week ahead, as well as some back and forth within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.